One, it's been a very, very long time. Like how many months now? But we all know you know, how busy we tend to get and how rough things can get, how tight the schedule can be sometimes. So I just finished my MB1 about 2 weeks ago or something, and I'm currently on a holiday. My lessons, I want to share my lessons I learned from MB1. So this is like MB1, MB lessons volume 1. Yeah. But when I was talking about my schedule, how I do my study and stuff, how I go about staying consistent with reading. I remember that I shared videos about that, some months ago. That was last year actually. And then I've been following that, like that's the only thing I do. I've been following that for like the whole of my preclinicals literally. And it was actually working very well for me. I was able to balance everything like quite all right, you know. And by the time it was late last year during December, in that December time, things actually started getting very, very crazy. Like I've never seen this type of craziness before. It was so tight, schedule was so tight that I couldn't even have enough time to the main issue was time. So in that case I had to adapt to the circumstances. At that time I was extremely short of time, honestly, and we had so much volume to cover, and we still had to read. We had to read for in courses, we had to read for MB as well, and even balancing that's the toughest thing I've ever done. And no, I can say that I kind of did fairly well on that, but I started early. I started reading for my MB early. That's lesson number one. Start reading for MB as early as possible. Like especially this MB1, any MB in general, because I feel the same rule applies to all MBs. But this one, because it's three different courses, more like five actually, if you think about it. Because anatomy is not just anatomy. So when you think about it, it's kind of bulky as well, and we write in courses after each block, and it's so easy. It's so easy to put past in courses behind you and just see it as the past. But one thing is, it's going to come back. You're going to see it again when MB is coming. When you see it, you see them in MB. So that's the first lesson. First lesson: start reading for MB as early as possible. Start your revisions as early as possible. Now the second lesson I learned is support systems. So while I was having live sessions, there was something I learned, like something that came to my attention that I wasn't really paying. I didn't notice it. I didn't realize it. I just realized it that day. So one of my friends talked about how how having a support system, like friends, like people to talk to about everything that was going on. He talked about how it helped him to not feel as much pressure and stuff. And I actually realized that actually that's actually very, very valid. I didn't even think about it that way, because at the time, you know even if by the time it was this year and everybody was preparing for MB, and workload choke, and everybody was just like, man, these guys just want to kill us, like. And everybody just trying to think about, everybody was feeling kind of the same way. Everybody was feeling the pressure. Everybody was feeling fear. Like there was fear in everybody, and everybody was handling it differently. But the fact that you had people to talk to, people you knew and saw that were in the same shoes as you, and you were able to talk about it, and you're just like, man, we are gonna be all right to the end. Let's just try to see how we can, adapt with this. Let's see what we can do. Let's just keep pushing. That encouragement from people around you. That's something that is actually very, very important. I didn't even really like realize it, but I also had my own support systems. So like it's just me and my friends and stuff. Like I'm just trying to read something, and I'm like, man, I have to read, like I have to increase my reading speed or the amount of material I'm reading by a factor of, like, say 50 or 100, and that's physically impossible. So having a support system, just it helps you stay sane, in times when it seems impossible to be in that state. Now, this thing that I learned, prioritizing understanding over remembering. So what do I mean? When back then, when I was reading for my blogs, like the normal blog in courses and stuff, when I was reading for my in courses, whenever I used to read, I always read with the aim of trying to understand as much as possible, like trying to own this thing, trying to internalize it as deeply as possible, deep encoding and stuff. That was what I was all about. I was prioritizing long run over the short term, and that really helped a lot because it reduced my revision time. Now, for me to revise something, I just have to look at it, try to just do a mental check in my head. Is this thing registered? Can I record this from scratch? Is this still in my head, or do I still have to brush over some things? It made my revision times shorter, way shorter than it would have been if I didn't deeply encode them at first. And by the time MB was near, looking back at all the blocks, it just made sense to me. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but my brain had already kind of pieced everything together and made this big picture. So, like, for each block, for each topic, for each concept, I know my stuff. Like, I know what this is about. I may not know all the little details, but I know all the structures. I know where what is supposed to fit into, and that helped me not even with my in courses and MB, but also even right now, I still have it in my mind. It's still, like, deep in me. I still understand it. It's like the lens that I used to view the world. I see anything at all. Anything could just happen, and it just makes me remember something from one block, or something a lecturer said before, or some clinical fact or something. That's just the level of understanding that you get to. That's the kind of level you get to when you encode stuff deeply. It's very, very important, because in the end, you're not just trying to remember, a list or something for just so you can write it in course and go. You need to understand why. You need to understand the deep aspects of it. You need to know what actually goes on. You need to understand that. And at this point, it's very easy to prioritize short term, over a long run. But honestly, it's a trap that nobody wants to fall into, because reading for MB is like it's very, very it's a lot, honestly. especially when you don't have enough time, because the volume is already much, and you have to cover as much as possible because you don't know what exactly you'll be tested on. And that leads me to my next point, next lesson I learned from MB, and that was time management. Time management. I talked about my schedule and all, how I have times that I do everything and everything like that. And during MB times, during preparation times, early January to February and stuff. During that time, I talked about how it's like I realized I had to increase the amount of materials I was covering by like a factor of 50 or 100. And time was very limited. Upon that, we still had in courses, we still had classes, we still had this, we still had that. But there was still a lot of things to do, but very limited time. Now, in that time, the skills or the habits that I've built when it comes to time, managing my time on a normal day, they help me most to prioritize what to spend time on and what I was going to, move to the next day, or what I was going to do later. It helped me to prioritize the most important things at the exact moment that I needed to prioritize on. And that helped me a lot, and helped me to save time. Helped me to save time for myself, to have more revision time in general. And that's just something that if I didn't have, I wouldn't have handled the pressure. I want to have handled the pressure as well as I did. I'm not saying that I handled it the best. I was the best person, that handled the pressure very well in my whole set or something. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that if I hadn't built that habit, I would have not handled it the way I handled it. And now that leads me to the next lesson. Pressure brings out your your weaknesses, and it shows you what your strengths are. Now, when you're very very pressured, and it's like you're pushed up against the wall or something, it helps you to, it brings out your strength. It helps you. That's where you realize that your skills or the coping that's where you realize that the coping mechanisms that you have, the survival instinct in you, that's where it kicks in. And that is where you understand that habits, you don't just build, like the habits that you build, that's where you understand that the habits that you build, they come back to help you, or just leave it there. Apart from time management skills, the other skills, or the other habits that I've learned, how I organize my stuff, how I do my revisions, how I prepare for the exams and everything in general. It was during that time that I realized how much benefit building those habits had on me. So at the time of doing my courses and all, it just felt like that's what I should be doing, and it was actually helping me. And I just saw it as, this is just what I have to do to make sure that I pass very well, and I understand this. But I understood the power of what I was doing when the pressure was there. Don't wait till you're pressured to find out that, I haven't built good habits. I'm kind of deficient at handling this or handling that, or managing my time, or knowing what to prioritize, or revising. Don't wait till when that pressure comes. Start now. And that leads me to the next lesson that I learned from this MBA. Small things build up. Small actions compound over time. The little actions compound. Now, me showing up every day, me going to classes, me taking notes, making simplifying my notes, enhancing them, watching videos, linking up with different people to ask for advice, and all these little actions I took over a span of about 2 years, everything all compounded to help me to get to the level that I am. I didn't just wake up one day and I suddenly understood all the blogs or most of the blogs, and I just knew how to spend my time, how to spend my time reading, how much time to spend on what. I didn't just wake up with all of this. They were built through repeated actions over a long period of time, so that it just became part of me. I had this schedule and I didn't even need to look at it again. And even though I couldn't follow it as much, I had to adapt, and I was still able to come up with a better schedule that helped me to spend the necessary amount of time and prepare adequately as well. So the habits you build now are going to either build you or no leave you weak when the pressure comes. We do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So yeah, systems, goals, habits, you know, that's something you should start working on if you don't have them. Now that leads me to my next lesson. The next lesson I learned from MB, and is that uncertainty is inevitable and change is constant. What do I mean? We're all used to how questions are being said, kind of. Not like we've written any MB before, but we are just kind of used to the format and everything. We've heard from our seniors, we took advice from them, and they told us how everything usually went. But in some courses, they kind of switched up some things, and it just made everything, it made it feel kind of new. And sometimes this change comes with there's fear associated with change, because you're going to the exam and you just see a different style of questions, a different method of setting questions, especially practicals as well. Practicals mainly, because practicals was not, I didn't exactly see it as something to worry about. I just underestimated it. Let's put it that way. I underestimated it, and go to the exams, I see myself like looking at the questions. I'm thinking to myself, how didn't I see this coming? And it happened in basically all my practicals, or like just two of my practicals. Unfixed expectation is not the best. It's not the best mindset, because things will always change. They will always have new ways of setting questions. There will always be new development, and that can't be predicted. You don't know what is going to be the case next year. You don't know what 2 years is going to be like. You can have an idea of what it could be, but you can never be 100% correct, if you get what I'm saying. So I learned that lesson. Don't really expect things that have happened in the past to happen again. At least not 100%. It's never 100%. Nobody can guarantee that. So yeah, those are my MB lessons.